Hey guys, so on this week's episode of Make It with Calvin, this is the continuation of the public versus private makerspace debate between me and my good buddy Joe, the 3D printing professor.
Hey.
We're here over in the design lounge over at San Francisco State University. I'm just showing Joe around the various makerspaces for both the industrial design students and also just for the general students on campus. So we're going to continue our discussion about public versus private. I took the tack of a private makerspace based off my experience going to an adult education program and also having worked with very expensive machinery at my day jobs. So let's dive into it.
Okay, so let me kick this discussion off. Let me start by and I'm arguing the devil's advocate here because I don't truly believe this, but I'm gonna take the position that that private makerspaces are doomed. That their biggest competition is their own equipment. With 3D printers getting cheaper and cheaper, with Glowforge and Dremel and these equipments becoming cheaper and cheaper, why wouldn't people just buy this equipment, put it in their garage, have a wood shop like their dad did, but much more high tech now, and just stop going to the maker spaces? Where's the percentage?
Well, honestly, the thing is, coming from where you are in Utah, you're from a more rural town.
Yeah, I am.
People have a heck of a lot more space. I mean, case in point, I'm literally renting a small room where I have two of my printers sitting on the floor and one of them living in a closet that I'm not using to store clothing in. So the point that I'm trying to make with the private makerspaces having access to certain equipment is, as much as I would love to have a laser cutter and a small CNC mill in my bedroom, I just don't think that's going to work. Heck, one of my 3D printers...
I thought like a really small, like get yourself a Moose or something like that, the Snapmaker, tiny little CNC. No,
at that point, it's not even practical. Plus,
and
the
even
mess.
Then you breathe, the mess, the Vox, the things that you're breathing. Oh, forget about it. Health and safety is a huge problem with you on that one.
And the last thing you want to do is light your room on fire because something you were laser cutting went wrong, and then the point is...
Never mind the danger of an A8. Once you slap a laser on there, it's not a question of if, but when it's going to burst into flames, right?
Oh, that's a good one. Or just any hack together laser cutter. I mean, case in point, when I'm running the laser, which is very rare, but I have run the laser at my job, we keep a small halon fire extinguisher next to it. And the rule of thumb is, if you can't put the fire out, through conventional means of opening the door or killing the laser, you have to don't hesitate to discharge the halon. But if we do that, whole building has to be evacuated.
Yeah, well, and most of the time, as long as you're there watching a laser cut,
it's fine.
It's fine, because the first rule that I taught people when I have my safety video that people watch for laser cutting, if there's a fire, rule number 1 is don't panic. It's probably not a big deal, you know. Rule number 2 is stop the laser and put the fire out. But rule number 1 is look, it's fine. It's just smoldering a little bit,
It's not like a raging bonfire inside the machine. You really have to be doing something wrong for it to become a major safety issue. That's not to say that things can't go wrong.
Yeah.
But if you have your settings right, 99.5% of the time, nothing's going to go wrong. And that 0.5% of the time that something goes wrong, pretty much all you do is you just open the door and the fire goes out because you cut the draft of air that was feeding the fire, and you're done. I mean, there's times where it's a little bit worse than that, but it's very rare.
Okay, so argument number 1 is that for your situation, for your location, renting a makerspace is more or less like making an extension on your house or on your apartment that is somebody else's garage.
Yeah.
But you're paying basically for a corner of a whole garage and getting access to really cool equipment. Okay, I can see that.
And case in point, I'm not going to name any names in this, but I know a friend who's renting some space at a makerspace down in LA, and she said the reason why she decided to do like a 1-year lease on the area is because she can during that time permanently set up a studio in there. She has 24-hour access to it, because she keeps, renting rooms in different areas depending upon where she's working at in the LA area.
Yeah.
Having that fixed location is nice because, say she's done for the day and she wants to go out there and work on stuff or film something, she doesn't have to worry about constantly having to reset things up at home, especially if, say, she's sharing, she's literally sharing a room with somebody else.
Okay.
Having that permanent location, that permanent setup is great because you don't have to waste all your time getting set up and doing anything. You just go in there and go. So there's
That makes
an
sense.
advantage as well, as especially if you can rent a corner of the space,
Yeah.
which I know like Tech Shop and stuff would allow you to do. You could actually rent a certain amount of space in there. Pretty much it becomes your permanent workshop. You can leave stuff there and then you can come back to it later. So there's another advantage. Although I do understand you are paying a premium for it, but for somebody who's really eager to do stuff, it gives them that opportunity.
There have been more than a few times when I thought, man, if I'm going to keep going on this project, I can't do it in my house. I can't do it in the makerspace because I would need to rent some additional space. So yeah, I can see that. But okay, here's the other problem with private makerspaces. They are a business.
They are.
They've got to make that money. If they don't get enough people, if they don't get enough interest, if they can't keep the lights on,
They're done.
they're done. And the problem is they also have to offer better equipment than you could buy at home. Otherwise, they're their own worst competition. So their initial cost of entry is stupid high.
Definitely.
And then they've got to get, a certain number of people in every month to make enough money above that to make up that. I mean, as a business, is this ever going to work out?
And honestly, that's the $1 million question right there. Is I feel like in a big city like, say, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, San Diego, somewhere that there's a ton of people smashed into a very, very tiny area where space is at a premium in your personal life, not like where I grew up in Southern California, where I was thankful enough to have a large garage, or even over at my grandmother's house where I could set up in the garage. You don't realize how nice having a dedicated space for things is until you don't have that. I think in a situation like that, you could get enough people who want access to higher end equipment. Say it's a warehouse space or something, and say they have like a nice Haas mill or two in there that people are trained on how to use.
Yeah.
You've got a very nice.
That's a piece of equipment that unless you are mind you, I have met people. I have a neighbor in southern Utah who he's got the whole wood shop. He's got all the fancy equipment. He's got the mills and the table saws, the big just stuff that I don't have the space or money for. He's got that all. And out there, that's not unusual.
Oh yeah.
Out here, that's impossible.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And the case in point is, if you had something like that, obviously there would be people there who are professionals in that sector who know how to operate the equipment. So
you get the training.
You get the training
Yeah.
because, case in point, I run I'm gonna give a rough price estimate because I don't know the exact numbers for it, but
Sure.
I run between about a $70,000 to $90,000 Haas VF4 super speed mill with a wireless probing system, and if I physically destroy the probe by accident, it's about $3,000 to $5,000 to get it replaced. It's a bit less to get it fixed, but it depends upon the level of damage. But the point is,
I think that's more than I've spent on a car.
yeah, the point is, if something goes wrong in there, it's not like, oh, I destroyed a $20 clone hot end off
No,
AliExpress and I can
yeah.
fix it in 2 hours. We're talking, very dangerous equipment that requires very specialized training. But if you're trained in how to use it, the opportunities it opens up are amazing. So I kind of see the private makerspace as kind of like a stopgap measure to get people into manufacturing who they start out at the public makerspace because that's, it's good. Case in point, Kickstarter. I'm just going to do
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I'm going to do a theoretical. I'm just going to use the term Kickstarter for crowdfunding.
Yeah.
But the idea is somebody comes up with an idea. They don't have any equipment or any know-how for how to do it. They go to you at the public makerspace.
Let's branch these realities. They go to China and get a quote, and it's going to cost them $20,000 to make the 10 of them that they want.
The prototypes
that they need. Or they go to a shop, local shop, and the dude uses old-fashioned tools and old-fashioned to build it to spec. We hope.
Yeah.
And he's going to cost them, maybe a couple $1,000s. Or third option, they go to a public makerspace in a library.
Yeah. So the idea is the person knows absolutely nothing about manufacturing, starts out there, they go to their public library makerspace, and their public library makerspace gets them going. They learn how to do 3D printing.
I'll be honest, I don't. Yeah, I get people going, but there's no classes, there's no training, there's no me trying to coach them. There's no coaching, there's no entrepreneurial training.
No, I'm just
none of that.
yeah.
I say, here's the machines, here's how to make it go, and everything else they have to learn themselves. So there's a lot of trial and error.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas in your private makerspaces,
they're going to hold your hand all the way through.
they can hold your hand all the
Yeah.
way through.
The point is more or less somebody comes in there, they learn what they need to do to get the item created on a laser cutter or a 3D printer to make a prototype that then they can show to other people and get some feedback on.
Yep.
They get to the point where they've got
It's a great entrepreneurial tool.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, they want to, they don't trust sending the files out to a third party yet because there's no legal protections on it. So then they've got everything ready, they get funded, then in theory, they go through a private makerspace to take care of the initial manufacturing.
So there is a question of privacy in
Yeah.
the public maker spaces and privacy in the private maker spaces. So I see that as well. Now there is one other question I wanted to bring up. Because these private maker spaces have to make money,
Yeah.
there is a gateway there, and you are not going to see disadvantaged people. You are not going to see people who are poor there. You are not going to see people serviced there who could be serviced at a library. You're going to basically only see rich white guys.
Yeah. Or anybody who has a fair bit of money.
Or anybody who has a fair bit of money. Does that not strike you as a problem? I mean, it's not a problem from the standpoint of that's how they stay in business, but come on, that's unfair.
And I totally get that. And believe me, I mean, I remember when Tech Shop came out, I was really like, oh, dude, this looks awesome. And then I looked into how much it was, and I'm like, and in that case, I'm good. So
Well,
I can totally...
And chances are they probably priced themselves right out of existence.
Yeah. And honestly, that's something that, I totally understand. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, if the private makerspace can, through sponsorships and stuff, it would be great if they offered, scholarships towards, students at schools who are, doing very good. And they do get, I feel like it's a private makerspace's duty to not just seem like, oh, we're just not going to let anybody
we have
in.
the elite here.
Yeah, no.
No.
And I feel like a lot of them try and push to get community involved. I know Alan Pan, I believe it is, Sufficiently Advanced on Twitter, he's, with his makerspace that he's trying to get going, he's actually running a Kickstarter as of the approximate time of this filming, where he's offering discounts.
Link in the cards.
Yeah, definitely going to link to it. He's offering a discounted rate on certain things. So what you can do is you can either buy a class for yourself as part of the Kickstarter, or you can gift it to somebody who can't do it. So I kind of see it as, if a private makerspace is well run and people have some extra money, they could definitely donate to a fund to directly allow, from like, we'll just call it C-Dub's Makerspace. We'll just say that there's, a little donation pot that people say, every month with their thing, they can check a box saying, yes, I'd like to make a $5, $10, $15 donation
cool.
to a separate nonprofit that's run by that.
Yeah.
So that way there's, C-Dub's Makerspace, kids get into making fund, and then say at various schools, kids who are excelling in, their requisite fields can, get a scholarship to go there and do things.
And mind you, disadvantaged people, youth are not as much, but people in a disadvantaged or poor situation, most of the time, they are unfortunately so busy.
Oh yeah,
that
they just don't have time.
They just don't have time to take advantage of the makerspace, even if that gateway wasn't a problem. So maybe there shouldn't be a big deal made about the gateway, but still,
it's there so that
it's
way
there.
It's not just a PR stunt. It's there as an actual reaching out to the community to say, we want you to come in and we want you to use stuff, but we also understand that because of the caliber of equipment that we have, there is that paywall, and we're trying to lower that.
And that actually, though, that paywall does have an advantage. At my makerspace, I can't have a really fancy CNC. Well, we have a fairly fancy CNC machine, but it can't be run. It can't be open if I'm not there.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're saying, okay, you got to pay $60 a month, you could take somebody, or $30 a month, or however much it costs. At $60 a month, I definitely think you could just hand somebody the key and say, you know what, any hour you want to come in at 2
Just
a.m. and
give
run the
everybody
machine.
a key card so that way you can keep track of
Anybody
them.
who can pay $60 a month to get into a makerspace is probably old enough and responsible enough
Definitely.
that you can trust them to come in and use the
And
equipment
if
anytime
the
they want.
equipment was locked out via a key card system,
Yeah, if
that
you
way
want
you
to go
can
that
keep.
far, yeah.
Well, the idea is that way, say somebody's not authorized to use a piece of equipment yet, it stops them for safety reasons from operating it.
Which is
Or-
a great system. Do you know any makerspaces that are doing that?
I think for a while Tech Shop was looking
Tech
at
Shop
doing
was looking
something
at
like
doing
that, which it's actually not a bad idea because when I
You know what somebody needs to develop is an open source card system for makerspaces so that they can have that safety requirement.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool. Somebody at a makerspace should make that. I think the final conclusion though, I think that while while public makerspaces, while makerspaces paid for with public funds, I think are a great way to fill the gap for makerspaces in more rural areas and more spread out areas. I still think that there's a place for the private makerspace, but it's a business. They're going to have to run it like a business. They're going to have to attract people. They're going to have to make it accessible. They're going to have to think about their prices so they don't price themselves out of business. But then they've also got to think about it's not an easy route to go. But I don't think that like puts the nail in the coffin.
No, I think it's like everything else. It's like anything. You could have a library makerspace that's run really badly and it fails very quickly because people go, well, nobody's going here. This is crap. You could have a privately run makerspace that's run super well, very well organized, and it lasts forever. I just think we're so new to this whole thing that people look at, the successes and failures in too much detail and don't look at the bigger picture of this is a very, very new concept. I mean, I'll bet you when libraries initially came out, people go,
oh yeah, no, people were
that's
like,
going to put all the
"Whoa."
bookstores out of business.
Well, not only putting the bookstores out of business, but you can't educate the poor.
Yeah.
That was the discussion at the time. You can't educate the poor.
And now you look at libraries, and it's like even in our digital
How would we
age,
get by without them?
even in our digital age where everybody on their cell phone can
Yeah,
go
it's
on
got-
the internet, you still have that place for the library to go get physical access to things that you can't find online. There's a lot of
Libraries are
there.
having to shift and change. They're no longer just a repository for books. They're a public service for people. But yeah, they open up the opportunity for people who could not otherwise to become entrepreneurs. And even if not just becoming entrepreneurs, solving a problem or just making a stupid toy yourself, all of these things are great uses.
Or I can't say how many times libraries helped out with my science fair projects with the knowledge and the resources I was able to get access to.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
there's a lot into it. But
I think there's room for everybody.
Oh yeah, and at the end of the day, there's no one size fits all solution for anything.
That's true.
There's
true.
there's always going to be that niche that you have to fill, but I feel like a good maker society has very well run public resources and very well run private resources, and they find ways to mesh in with each other.
We're not competing with each other.
We're trying to help each other up, not fight against each other. It's not a public
I like how we
versus
both did
private
that
debate.
together. Yeah, we had that. We were there, man.
It's not that we're trying to outdo each other. We're actually trying to hit our own. We're trying to hit the appropriate markets so that it benefits everybody mutually.
It's not a competition, man.
Definitely not.
Well, Calvin, cool conversation.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Joe.
Let's go. Bay Area Maker Fair's on.
Let's go.
All right.